Well, it is Friday morning, the weekend looms, and we've got Van Connor standing by, our main man when it comes to all matters TV movie related, to give us his 3 top picks of the weekend. I'll give you my 3 picks, you choose between them, and we've, for the first time ever, both gone for the same Sunday movie. But before we get to that, let me say good morning to Van, and welcome back, Van, to Talk to an Extra Time. Have you had a good week?
It's been a great week, Mr. Ross, and it's always a pleasure to be back with you.
And the big movie release of the weekend, I suppose, is Bad Boys for Life, and you've gone old school Bad Boys for your first recommendation.
The first, and for my money, still the best. I have seen the new Bad Boys. I can say it's very, very good. It's very fun, but it ain't no Bad Boys 1.
Okay, so it's Sony Movies. It's tonight at 9 o'clock. It's the original Bad Boys. Have you got a clip for us, or is it the trailer?
So I've got a clip for you. This is Will Smith and Martin Lawrence trying to interrogate a CI who's been holding back from them.
What's up, Joe?
What? You pulling a gun on me? You guys are cops. I can't believe this. I should turn you into hard copy. Put your ass on the TV set.
Yo, what are you doing, man? I got this. Jojo, I got 15 bullets in this gun.
Mike!
And I swear if you don't start talking to him, I'm gonna fill your lying ass full of some hot. Now, what's up?
Mike! He's a former ganja-smoking motherfucker. He ain't worth it. Do you want something? I'll bust your ass, too. So sad. You on your own, Jojo.
It's like the Nate G song, 15 in the clip and 1 in the hole. Nate Dogg and we're on G, make bodies turn cold. That is such a great, mad, fun film, is it not?
It really is. And do you know what? It holds up. Bex and I were talking about this week. I think the reason the Bad Boys 1 can never be topped is because it's so rewatchable, it's so quotable, and it's still, to this day, 25 years later, so badass.
And the chemistry and charisma between the two of them just crackles off the screen, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. I mean, obviously, Will Smith will parlay that into basically his entire career. Martin Lawrence never quite managed to find his foot.
Although I didn't mind his film. Was it Black Knight he was in, where he goes back as a guy from the hood going back to medieval times?
Yes, that was it, Black Knight. See also National Security.
Yep,
that one was a doozy.
Okay, well, you've gone Bad Boys. I'm starting with an absolute cracker, directed by one of my favourite directors, Brian De Palma. It's from 1987. The cast list is astonishing. Kevin Costner, Robert De Niro, Sean Connery, Andy Garcia. It is, of course, The Untouchables, based on the true story of Elliot Ness, who took on the big Chicago mobsters during Prohibition. And I've got the trailer from 1987. It's 9 o'clock tonight. It's ITV4. When it comes to modern gangster movies, this, I think, is untouchable.
I grew up in a tough neighborhood. Sometimes a reputation follows you.
Robert De Niro is Al Capone.
There is violence in Chicago, of course, but not by me and not by anybody I employ, and I'll tell you why, because it's not good business.
Kevin Costner is Elliot Ness.
I have sworn to put this man away with any and all legal means at my disposal, and I will do so.
Sean Connery is Jimmy Malone.
You want to get Capone? Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's it, the Chicago way.
I think it got Sean Connery his Oscar, didn't it? Best Supporting Actor.
I believe it did. Am I right in thinking he plays Irish in this one?
It does, yeah. He's Irish. He was Portuguese, wasn't he, in Highlander? He was Russian in The Hunt for Red October. Oh. He's Irish in this, but they all sound the same with Sean Connery, don't they?
Oh no, I got to wax lyrical on this one, because in Highlander he's Egyptian, which to me
is he Egyptian? I thought he was Portuguese.
More insane.
Oh yeah, of course he is. Of course he is. This is the only one can survive type stuff. It's a great movie. This. I mean, the scene of the shootout on the steps in this one, which is a kind of homage to, that's worth the price of admission alone, and it's free on ITV4. It's tonight. It's 9 o'clock, and let's go to tomorrow now for Saturday. What have you picked out for Saturday, Van?
So for Saturday, I've got 2014's Alejandra Inarritu Oscar charming effort. This basically sort of formed a sort of comeback vehicle for Michael Keaton. It's Birdman or the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, a sort of one shot, meant to sort of look like it's comprised entirely of one shot, rather like 1917 has done recently, and is the story of a superhero actor, an actor known for his campy, almost Adam West-like persona, who is trying to regain his artistic credibility by taking on a stage show. And it's got an all-star cast, hell of a soundtrack, hell of a style, Emmanuel Lubezki's cinematography in there. I've got a clip for you of Michael Keaton and Edward Norton.
Let's go. Walk. Where are we going? Get you some coffee. Did I do something to disrespect you?
Not yet.
Look, I have a lot riding on this plane.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. People know who I am.
They don't know you, your work, man. They know the guy from the bird suit who goes and tells coy, slightly vomitous stories on Letterman.
Well, I'm sorry if I'm popular, Mike.
You know, I don't give a popular. Popularity is the slutty little cousin of prestige, my friend.
Okay, I don't even know what the that means, so...
You've chosen lots of bleeping clips this morning. I must say, true confession time. I went and saw this at an advanced screening, and I had no idea what it was about, but I'd seen a picture of Michael Keaton in the Birdman costume, so I assumed it was a straight-ahead superhero film, like Hawkman. Boy, was I surprised. It's a gripping film, this. I think you've got to be in the right mood to follow this one, haven't you?
I think so. I mean, it is one of those films that you really don't see outside of Oscar season. It's an art house film that does have its mainstream fringes. It's one of those that you only get when you've reached a certain level of artistic credibility within the mainstream studio environment. Inarritu has that, and obviously would go on to The Revenant after this as well. It is all about that style and that pacing and that almost free-form jazz-like cadence to it. You can hear it in the music in the background.
And also, of course, I think Michael Keaton, great actor, holds his own with Ed Norton, who's an even better actor. I mean, it's a brilliant two-hander. Some of those scenes are fantastic. So that's BBC 2 tomorrow night, 11 o'clock. This film has got one of the great soundtracks, I think, certainly of films released in this century, because it samples things like Thin Lizzy, The Boys Are Back in Town, got a bit of Queen in there, got David Bowie in there. It is 5-star, and 5-star plus one. It's 6.15 on 5-star, though, tomorrow night, and it is Heath Ledger, what a cast, Alan Tudyk, Paul Bettany as Geoffrey Chaucer, James Purefoy as the Black Prince, and Rufus Sewell as the bad guy. It's only A Knight's Tale.
Someday, I'll be a knight.
Yes, William. If he believes enough, a man can do anything.
We could do this. In 1 month, we could be on our way to glory and riches none of us ever dreamed of.
You can't even joust.
I think he's getting worse. He is getting worse. I won't spend the rest of my life as nothing.
You have to be of noble birth to compete.
So we lie.
My lords, my ladies, I have the pride, the privilege, nay, the pleasure of introducing to you a knight, sired by knights.
William Thatcher didn't make the rules. He was born.
I've waited my whole life for this moment.
To break them.
Yes!
I could have mentioned as well Shannon Sossamon and Mark Addy is in it as well, so it's a great ensemble cast. And great fun, isn't it? A great fun movie, this one.
Oh, it really is. The thing with this as well is the movie became so unexpectedly popular because it was one of those films that you got on DVD with your first DVD player.
Oh, right.
So it wound up sort of gaining, almost accidentally, this entire crop of unwitting fans.
They start dancing, and suddenly in comes the music, and it's Golden Years by David Bowie off the album Station to Station. Just brilliant. And it's Brian Helgeland's, I think it was his second film as a director. Of course, he won the Oscar for adapting LA Confidential. He also directed before this, I think just before it, he directed Mel Gibson in a really underrated, I think, remake of Point Blank called Payback. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes, I have.
Chris Christopherson and James Coburn. It's a great dark gangster movie, that.
It does. It also features one of the best lines of any film of the 90s, which is, "I've got 3 minutes, so go boil an egg."
That's fantastic. Okay, now to the clash of two small screen movie titans. In the blue corner, it's me, Paul Ross. In the red corner, it's Van Connor, and we're having a tussle over. We both picked this one. ITV4, 6:50, 10 to 7 in the old money, Sunday night. From 1980, we both fancy a bit of Flash Gordon, don't we, Van?
Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. It would take a movie as great as Flash Gordon for us to pick the same one.
And I think this is the first time for some time you've not gone, you soppy date you, for a rom-com.
You know me, I can't possibly turn down a good old-fashioned, especially late 90s, early 2000s rom-com. You just can't beat them, but it turns out Sam Jones might be the man to break that streak.
Fantastic stuff. So I'm going to play the trailer. Me and Van will talk about it a bit, and then we'll have a clip from Van Connor. Here it is from 1980, Flash Gordon.
Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system, Your Majesty. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
I like to play with things a while before annihilation. Pathetic earthlings! Who can save you now? Strange object imaged in the Imperial vortex.
And you mentioned Sam J. Jones, who turns up, of course, in Ted. The cast, though, is bonkers for this. Topol from Fiddler on the Roof, Max von Sydow from Ingmar Bergman films like The Seventh Seal,
God, I know.
Timothy Dalton, Brian Blessed, of course, chewing the scenery, and even Peter Wingard, Richard O'Brien for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Robbie Coltrane's got a small part in it, and from Blue Peter, Peter Duncan. It's really strange.
It is mental, isn't it?
Great film. And you've got a clip for us, Van, is that right?
Yes, I've got a clip for you of when Dr. Zarkov, Flash Gordon and Dale first arrive on the planet Mongo after their ship is accidentally sucked into this strange new world.
My God!
What is this, a civic reception?
More like a police state.
If it is, that could be our good luck.
Why?
It means we'll find allies on every side. Look at them. The poor wretches are just waiting for someone to lead them in revolt.
Oh, are you looking at me, Zarkov?
Yes.
Please, stop talking about revolts. I just want to get back home alive.
Flash, I love you, but we've only got 24 hours to save the universe, because there's the Hawkmen and the
favourite line.
And also Brian Blessed, Gordon's alive. I mean, he's dined out on that one for years. That's a great recommendation. To remind people, it's 10 to 7, 6:50, Sunday evening on ITV4. Van, can we do it all again next week?
That sounds like a plan to me, sir.
And where can people find your cinematic musings and your reviews? You and Rebecca Perfect.
You can find Bex and I every week on the Off-Screen podcast with your ultimate 7-day guide to movies.
Fantastic stuff. Van Connor there talking to me, Paul Ross, on Talk to Extra Time. Oh, and by the way, Gordon's alive.
Score a massive winter winner this January.